Hey fellow flowers, Violet here and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm showing you how to do the mummy stitch. So I'm dubbing this one the mummy stitch because it kind of reminds me of like the bandage wrapping that they put on a mummy. I thought this would be perfect, especially with Halloween right around the corner. And I will preface that this works for any size lanyard that is bigger than the box stitch. So to do this one in particular, I'm going to be using 4 pieces of gimp. And now here is a little guide to kind of help you with starting this. So you'll notice that we even out our main string, which is the white strand, we even out those. However, we're not going to even out the mummy wrapping strands because we want them to maintain their length so that way they can be wrapped back and forth. So if you're going to try and make this 4-strand wall, here are some lengths that you can try out. Just remember, this doesn't really work for the box stitch, so you'll just have to do something a little bigger. Okay, so once you have your strands cut, remember that I evened out my white string here, my main string, so I'm working from the center point for that. I'm also working from the center point of my orange strands, but you'll notice that this pink strand on the end here is actually longer, and then the brown strand on bottom is also a little bit longer because that one's going to be wrapped. So you'll see this is the short end of the pink, and then my brown here, its short end is over here and my long end is over here. So I actually need to flip this over because I need my long end to be facing the left. So I'm just going to turn this around so you can see now that I have my short end on the right. So you should only have one long strand on each side and they should be on the very end. So this one is good to go. The pink is long and it's over here. And then let me pull these through really quickly and you can see that the brown strand is also, its long end is on this side as well. So once your strings are oriented properly, you can go ahead and start your lanyard. So you'll see, just again, verified, these are where my long ends are. I'm going to start by gathering this top white strand and bringing it down to the bottom left. So in between this longer brown strand and the white, and then this bottom white, I'm going to fold it up over the top of all of those strands. I'll just kind of hold it back there with my finger. And now I can start weaving my side strings, and I'll actually start with this long pink strand. I'm going to cross over the first white loop and underneath the second one over here. And then I can reach for my shorter pink strand. This one will go over and under, but towards the right now. So it's going to alternate. Then I'll pull this orange strand, we'll cross over the first white underneath the one which is further away. Find its buddy across the way, over the one closest and underneath the one farther away. So over that and under this, pull that through and do the same for this row, over and under, over the first, under the second, and then we can finish with our browns, and then the last strand which we should be weaving is going to be our longest strand. So then I'm going to pull this all tightly together. And that's just the first stitch. We don't really do anything super special besides just start it at this point. But if you want to check and verify, on the outsides of your lanyard should be those longest strands. Now we're ready to do the stitch, which is going to give it that mummy effect. And I'm going to begin with this top white strand, and I'm going to bring it directly down. There's like this little white space. I'm just going to put it right there. And this bottom one, there's also a white space up here. Bring this directly up into that little white space like so. Now for this, we're going to do a straight stitch. So you'll notice that my white strand is loose over here on the left, which means that I'm going to start with this left pink string because I need to go over that loose strand and underneath the loop. And then for this pink over here on the right, do the same. We'll go over and under towards the left. So I'm going to weave each row of strings, just following this pattern of just going straight across over and under those primary loops. And you can do this with the twisty stitch. However, that's a video for another day, and it does look a little bit different, but it's still a cool effect. So let me just weave these ones over and under. And once you get to the end, before we pull this thing all tightly together, we're going to kind of hit the pause button. So I'm going to, just straighten it up. I'm not going to pull it completely tightly together, not all the way. So you see I left it a little bit loose. And now here's where the wrap part comes in. So gathering that longer end, this longer pink strand on the end, we're going to bring it behind the other 3 side strands. We'll find the end of it, which is right here, and we're going to actually put it right where this other long brown strand is. So you'll see that this brown strand is going over and under towards the left. So this pink strand should do the same thing. And you can kind of think of it as like we are replacing the strands, or we're swapping where these strands are at by crossing behind these side strings. So it should look something like this. And then that means that for the brown, we need to move him out of the way too. So we'll move it behind these strands on the left, and we'll cross over this first white loop and underneath the second one right here, just like the pink strand was doing before. So I'll find the end of the brown strand, and this one's going to cross over and under towards the right, like so. Now I can't pull this all tightly together, and I find that it helps to pull my main strings, then pull all of the side, and then I'll take a second to pull those longer strands, those mummy wrap strings. I pull those by themselves too, just so they can be flush with the body. You can do it, you could actually leave them a little bit loose, and it's kind of a cool effect too. Like you can do like a little wave thing with it, but again, that's for like another video. Okay, so now for our second stitch, I'll do another straight stitch, and you'll notice that, the brown and the pink are not really where they're supposed to be. So you can think of it now as, for this next stitch, we're going to return them back to where they were. So again, bring the main strands directly across to their respective spots, their little white spaces, just straight across. Then starting with the strand closest to the loose end, which for me is on the right, I'm going to cross over and under those main strings. The pink will go over the one closest, under the one farther away. Same with the orange row, just weaving this all the way down. And then for this last pink one, I find it helps if you just tuck in a piece and then pull the slack through. Kind of helps you go a little bit faster instead of searching for ends. But anyways, we're going to pause here, and instead of pulling it all the way tightly, we're now going to pass this pink one behind all of those side strands again, and we're going to put it back to where it was. So over this first white strand and underneath the loop which is farther away. Think of it as we are putting it exactly where that brown strand is. And then for this brown strand, again, doing the same thing, pass behind the strands on the left, and then cross over this first white strand, which is on the left, and then under the one which is on the right. So over the first loop and underneath the second. And now we are ready to pull it tightly again. So I'm going to pull my main strands, pull all of my side strings, and then give the mummy wrapped strands their own little tug. And you can see that after just 2 stitches, you can already see the effect coming into play. And if you want to see what it's going to look like after a couple of minutes, here's the one that I have finished. And you can see that it kind of alternates back and forth across the body, like you're wrapping a mummy. Now, when all is said and done and you are ready to finish this thing, I'm going to show you a technique of doing the macrame finish. So for this, you're actually going to gather another piece of gimp. Just a short strand will be fine. Or if you have a longer end on your body like I do here, you can just use the longest strand on your body so as not to be wasteful. So to do that, I'm just going to take this brown strand and form a loop on top, like so, and then I'll form a loop on bottom. So I'm kind of making this like figure 8 sort of thing over the lanyard, like so. So there's like a circle and then I'm pinching it so that I have a loop on top and a loop on bottom. Then I have a lot of slack here, so I'm just going to wrap it around those loops. And I'm also going to wrap it around all of the extra strands that I have. And pull it tightly every time that you wrap around, just so that those strings stay in place. And I like to go around like 5 or 6 times, kind of overlapping as I go. So I'll just wrap it around. And then once you've gone around a couple of times and you're happy with how it looks, you can tuck that slack through the bottom loop. So I'll take this slack, feed it through the bottom loop, and then I'll hold on to it and I will pull up on the top loop. So you'll see I fed through there and now I'm going to pull on this. And this will lock our strings down. You can kind of straighten it up as you see fit. And then you just trim off all of the extra string you have. So I'll get my scissors. I'll just cut as close to the body as I can get. We'll cut here as well. And then down here, give this a snip. And voila, that is how you make the mummy stitch. I hope you all enjoyed this little spooky tutorial, and I'd love to see what you come up with for variations of this. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Until then, keep blooming. Bye.